All right, Rabbi, say good morning, a good tevach. It is an incredible schos Baruch Hashem to be able to begin a new week of limud together, especially coming off again the incredible dapim that we've had over the course of the last couple of days. Let's begin by thanking our sponsors for this morning's shir. To thank our why isn't this working? 1 second. Okay. To thank our Talmud Torah sponsors, Baruch Meir and Rena Dubin, for dedicating over Shimmer Joshos this month in honor of our children, all of the suburban sons and daughters beginning their year of study in Eretz Yisroel. May their Torah study and mitzvos in the Holy Land merit the release of our precious hostages, the success of our soldiers and return to their families, and the arrival of Moshiach tzidkeuni bimheira b'yameinu. Amen. Our week of learning sponsors, Josh and Malkie Rosenbloom and Shalom and Zahava Rosenbloom, Le'ilu nishmas, Yisrael, David, Ben, Moshe, Hershel, Zichrono Livracha, Rabbi Gedalia's brother. We hope that, and similarly, again, our Daf Yomi sponsorship today, Matt and Diane Marks, in memory of David Rosenbloom, brother of Gedalia Rosenbloom. May his memory be for our blessing, neshama shtav and aliyah, and the family a nechama. We thank Rabbi Yehudah Bracha Buchwalter for sponsoring the Daf pastries today in memory of Yehudah's mother, Florette Buchwalter, Feyga, Liba, Bas, Chayim HaKohen Zichron Livracha, whose yard site is on the 9th of Elul. We hope that in the merit of the brachas, merit of the Talmud Torah, the neshama will have an aliyah and the family a nechama. Well, with that, let us begin. We have a lot to do today, Baruch Hashem, another fascinating, riveting, incredible, uplifting, transformative daf ahead of us today. Today's daf is 75 Ayin Hey. We are picking up. We made good headway yesterday. We are picking up Eretz Yisroel from the bottom of Ayin Daled Amud Beis, 5 lines up from the bottom. Ki Asr Rav Dimi Am Rabbi Yochanan. When Rav Dimi came along, you suddenly Rabbi Yochanan the following. What's the meaning of the pasuk? Ki hu al yomim yisada v'al na'aros yechonenah. What does it mean when the pasuk says, because he will establish it, literally again on the seas and on the rivers? He will yichonenah, means literally again he will also establish it. So the Gemara says, what does this refer to? This refers to the 7 seas and the 4 rivers that surround Eretz Yisroel. Ve'elohein, and these are them. Ve'elohein Shiva Yomim. What are the 7 seas? Yom Shel Tveria, Yom Shel Sodom, Yom Shel Chilas, Yom Shel Chilsa, Yom Shel Sivki, Yom Aspanya, Yom Agadol. Okay, Ve'elohein Arba Naros. What are the 4 rivers? Yarden, Yarmoch, Kirmion, Ufiga. Okay, so Moshe said there's different geographic pieces. Now again, the truth is, the Mefarshim struggle to understand some of these seas and some of these rivers we don't actually recognize. So of course, in all of these things, there's some deeper metaphorical understanding in Eretz Hashem, which we'll hopefully get to a little bit later on in the sugya. Ki Asr Rav Dimi Am Rabbi Yochanan. Asid Gavriel. This is incredible. Rabbi Yochanan says as follows: In the future, Asid Gavriel La'asos, top of Ayin Hey, 75a. Kinigya im Lev Yasan. In the future, Gavriel is going to have to hunt the Lev Yasan. Now remember again, about say, in accordance with what we saw in yesterday's daf, what's the pshat of Lev Yasan? What happened? Remember again, the Rebbe Shalom created them Zachar Unekeva, recognizing that if they reproduce, it's going to be the end of the world. So remember again, what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? He went ahead and he was misaris. He castrated the male, and he went ahead and shechted the female. And the female Lev Yasan was salted, and ultimately is going to be served la'asid lavo. It's going to be served by the Sudas Moshiach when Moshiach comes. So the Gemara says something very interesting. So apparently, in the future, Gavriel, the Malach Gavriel, is going to hunt down the remaining Lev Yasan. Going to hunt down the male. Shene'emar hatimshoch Lev Yasan mechika o bechaval tashkel l'shono v'elmalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu ozro, and were it not for the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to help him, ein yachalo. It would be hard even for the Malach Gavriel to catch the Lev Yasan. Shene'emar ha'oshi yigash charbo. So what's going on over here? So why is Gavriel hunting down? Why is he hunting down the Lev Yasan? So we'll say, so perhaps the pshat is like this: the Lev Yasan really represents the Ma'aseh Bereshis, right? The Lev Yasan represents creation as it was originally done. Perhaps what the Gemara is trying to highlight over here is that when Moshiach comes, everything is going to fundamentally change. That even the original vestiges, even the original pieces of original creation are going to be removed from this world, and a new creation will begin. In general, there is a fundamental machlokas in terms of what Yemos HaMashiach. What is the Messianic era going to look like? Is it going to be Olam Kimin Hago Nohe? Pretty much, like it's a regular world. It's a regular world, except, now the excepts are amazing, except that the world will recognize, mankind will recognize HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and mankind will recognize Al Klal Yisrael, Am Yisrael's right to Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi said, can you imagine that? Can you imagine that if the world were to recognize the Jewish people's right to Eretz Yisrael? First of all, what would the UN do? What are they even going to have to do anymore? It's going to be so much more free time for these important world leaders, right? To be able to do. It's going to be a lot of free time at the UN. But imagine that. So there is an approach like that. Then and then there's another approach that no, the world becomes supernatural. There's something supernatural in Messianic era. This Gemara seems to reflect the latter view. And again, you have conflicting Gemaras. That's really what we see. It's a machlok. It's not conflicting Gemaras. It's a machlokes. It's a fundamental machlokes. So this Gemara seems to indicate, because we're going to talk a lot about Messianic era, that there seems to be some element of supernatural activity. So this idea, this imagery of the Malach Gavriel hunting down, right, the ultimate fishing trip, right, the Malach Gavriel hunting down the Lev Yasan, seems to highlight this idea that when Moshiach comes, the world as we knew it, which was the world with Lev Yasan, the world of Maaseh Bereshis, that world comes to an end, not like a catastrophic, but that chapter, so to speak, ends, and Mashiach initiates some type of new supernatural chapter. Incredible. Both say 75a, 4 lines down from the top. 4 lines down from the top. Listen to this. When the Lev Yasan is hungry, so Motzi Hevel Mipiv, Umarsiach Kol Moshe Betzula. It literally, again, Motzi Hevel Mipiv means it exhales in a very strong way, and it causes all of the depths to literally boil up. Shene Emari Asiach Kisir Metzula. Last end of the first white line. Now, we're not for the fact that sometimes the Lev Yasan puts its head into Gan Eden, whatever this means. So the stench of its breath, of the Yasan's breath, is so intense that the only way that somehow it's muted a little bit is because every once in a while it sticks its head in Gan Eden. The Gemara says, and when the Lev Yasan is thirsty, through its drinking, it makes furrows upon furrows in the water. And after the Lev Yasan drinks and eats, it stirs up the depths of the water to such a degree that the waters don't return to their normal tranquility until 70 years later. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Both say an incredible Gemara over here. Asira Kadosh Baruch Hu lasos seuda letzadikim mibsaro shel Lev Yasan. Rabbi Yochanan says in the future, the Ribono Shel Olam is going to go ahead and make a seuda for the tzadikim, a festival for the tzadikim from the flesh of the Lev Yasan. And I will say, so again, we saw this already in yesterday's Gemara a little bit. So here's what's also interesting. Whenever you see the lashon of asid, of the future, so again, is that referring to like Olam Haba, where you go to when you die? Or is that the Messianic era, when Mashiach comes and we're still in this world? So Bepashtos, since it's referring to eating, so Bepashtos, this would ultimately refer to Yemos HaMashiach in this world. Mashiach comes, Meretz Hashem, we're all still alive, we're here, life changes, world changes. So what happens when Mashiach comes? There's going to be a big seuda, and who gets to participate in that seuda? The tzadikim. And what's on the menu? Lev Yasan. Lev Yasan is on the menu. That's the seuda of tzadikim. Shnei Amar, Yichru alav chaverav, vein kara ela seuda, Shnei Amar, v'yichra lehem kara gidola, v'yochlu v'yishtu, vein chaver ela talmidei chachamim. So Rabbi say, isn't that incredible? Now, well, if you think about this, like, what's the pshat? What's the pshat that Talmidei Chachamim, this right, the Seuda of Mashiach is the Lev Yasan. If you think about this, it's almost like an incredible like closing of the loop, right? Creation begins with the Lev Yasan. Not that the Lev Yasan was the first thing, but like Lev Yasan is like represents the initial stages of creation. Mashiach represents the closing of that circuit of creation, right? Mashiach essentially is when the world as we know it comes to an end. Again, not a catastrophic end. It closes out, and then again a new world, the Messianic world, is initiated. So how do you close out this world? How do you close out this phase of existence? With Lev Yasan. With Lev Yasan, who eats? So therefore the Lev Yasan becomes the Suda for Moshiach. So we'll say, who eats of that? Talmidei Chachamim. We'll say, what is the entire tachlis of this world? The entire tachlis, the entire purpose of this world, right? The Ribono Shel Olam created an imperfect world perfectly. The Ribono purposely left things undone. Why? Rav Kook writes about it. Rav Kook, whose yard site was just on Friday. Rav Kook writes about this, that the entire purpose of Yehudah Bracha Buchwalter said, I created so much, I'm going to leave certain things undone, and then your job, meaning our job, is to come along and quote-unquote finish creation. So when we see things broken in this world, when we see things unfinished in this world, it is our avoda to step in and try to do something. How do you do that? And the answer is Torah. A person who is steeped in Torah looks at the world in a different way. And a person who is steeped in Torah has the tools of creation. And a person who lives a life in Torah, when he sees something broken, doesn't just let out a krach or let out a sigh, but rolls up his sleeves and tries to figure out what can I do to go ahead and fix it. That's the avodah of a yid. If you see something broken, the Rebbe Shalom is allowing you to see that because he wants you to try to do something about it. So it's so beautiful. So at the end of the day, as the first unit of creation is complete, Moshiach comes. We eat the Suda of Lev Yasan. Who ultimately, who gets to eat of that Suda? Talmidei Chachamim. We'll say, a Talmid Chacham is much more than someone who just knows a lot of Torah. A Talmid Chacham is someone who learns Torah and lives Torah. And lives Torah, makes a difference in this world with his Torah. That person, you get to eat from Lev Yasan. You get to eat from Lev Yasan because you actively participated in creation. You partnered with the Ribono Shel Olam making the world a little bit better. Such a person like that participates of the Suda of Lev Yasan, ushering in the Messianic era. Halavai. We should all be zocha to sit at that table. So the Gemara goes like Shnei Amar, Hayosheves begalim chaverim achshivim b'kol chashmini v'ashar. Okay, suppose I say now remember, Lev Yasan was big. It's a lot of fish. So what happens? So the first part is they serve for the Suda of Talmidei Chachamim. What about the rest of Lev Yasan? What do you do with the rest of it? So apparently, Moshe is incredible. There are leftovers. Vashar, Mechalkin osin va'osin bo schori b'shuki Yerushalayim. Here's the great news. The great news is, even if you don't get a seat at the table of Talmidei Chachamim, you'll go to Machane Yehuda, right? In Eretz Hashem, and in the shuk, right? Literally again in the, what do you call it? The shuk. What do they call it? What's the English? What's the marketplace? In the marketplaces of Yerushalayim, but just Yerushalayim will say, you are not going to be able to go ahead and buy Lev Yasan anywhere else. It will not be available at 7 Mile. It will not be at Market Maven. It's not even going to be available in Lakewood. Not even in Lakewood. Right? But the only place to get Lev Yasan is going to be either one of two places. Either if Baruch Hashem we're able to raise ourselves up to the level of Talmidei Chachamim, then we'll mamish get a seat at the table, and that's waiter service, right? That's white glove service there in Eretz Hashem. Or if not, marketplace of Yerushalayim, right? The Yerushalayim will have the excess, the extra Lev Yasan. Shnei Amar yichatzu ben Kananim ben Kananim el tagum Shnei Amar Kanan biyado ma'azne mirma lashok avi ba'isem me'acha asher schoreh son Kananim ginech b'diyar. So I'll say again. So we're going to go through the other psukim quickly in terms of that highlight the definition of the words. Amar Rabbi Rabbi Yochanan aslech Shabbos says that's Lev Yasan. So again, the primary part of Lev Yasan is given to tzaddikim. Whatever is left over from Talmidei Chachamim ultimately sold in the marketplaces of Yerushalayim Yira Kodesh. V'amar Rabba Amar Rabbi Yochanan Aseh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is beautiful. Lasos sukkah letzaddikim me'oro shel Lev Yasan. The Ribono Shel Olam is going to make a sukkah. Now, both say, so now we know what they did, what we're going to do in Eretz Hashem with like the meat, right? With the actual, with the flesh of the Lev Yasan. What about the skin of Lev Yasan? What's going to be done with that? So Rabbi Yochanan says, Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to make a sukkah for the tzaddikim from the flesh, from the skin of the Lev Yasan. Shnei Amar hatemale b'sukas oro. Shabbos says, isn't this beautiful? Now remember again, what does this mean? He's going to make a sukkah from. So remember, a sukkah is this interesting idea, because a sukkah on one hand provides protection, but not complete protection, right? In other words, so a sukkah could effectively like shield you from the elements, but it's not a home. This idea that HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes a sukkah from the skin of the Lev Yasan. What is unique about the tzaddikim? Now, I want to point out over here, if you notice, we transitioned. I said before Talmud, right? So ultimately, it says tzaddikim over here. The idea is, what is a tzaddik? A tzaddik is someone who enjoys a unique relationship with the Ribono Shel Olam. A tzaddik, like we spoke about in the drasha yesterday, right? A tzaddik is a person who lives a life of tamim tia em Hashem Elokecha, who does the right thing without expectation, without a guarantee of success. You see, a tzaddik doesn't need a bias. What does a tzaddik need? A sukkah. A tzaddik knows Yehudah Baruch Hu's got his back, right? So in other words, many of us who are not yet tzaddikim, I need a bias. Right? In other words, I need a home. I need a house. I need to know that there are solid walls. I need to know that there's a solid roof, because that's how I feel protected, right? That's how I feel secure. The tzaddik doesn't need a physical house. What does the tzaddik need? Give me a sukkah. Give me a sukkah because I'm a human being. I need some basic protection from the elements. And I know that the Ribono Shel Olam has my back. So the greatest reward for the tzaddikim is Moshe makes a sukkah for the tzaddikim from the skin of the Lev Yasan. How beautiful is that? And the tzaddik says, Gishmak, perfect. That's all that I need in life. A little bit of protection from the elements, and the core of my protection and security comes from the Ribono Shel Olam, and I am good to go. So the Gemara goes weiter. Zacha osin lo sukkah. So if you're a tzaddik, you get a sukkah. Lo zacha osin lo tziltzal. Now, if you're not a tzaddik, you get a tziltzal. Now, what's a tziltzal? A tziltzal is a step down from a sukkah, whereas a sukkah has walls and a roof. A tziltzal has a roof but doesn't have walls. So if the most righteous, the tzaddikim, get a sukkah from Lev Yasan. You're a step down. I don't know what the step down from a tzaddik is. A tzaddikal. Right? There's the tzaddik and then there's the tzaddikal, right? So the tzaddikal, you don't get a sukkah. Ultimately, what do you get? You get a tziltzal. Shnei Amar. But says you get essentially, you get the roof. You get the roof, right? But you don't get the wall. Shnei Amar. U'b'tziltzal dagim rosho zochin osno tziltzal. Tziltzal literally means shade. So you get like the canopy, you get the top, but you don't get the walls. Lo zacha osno anak. So apparently, if you're not a tzaddik or you're not a tzaddikal, right? You're third tier. I don't know what we call this, but you're third tier. You get a necklace. Shena Emar, Vanakim Gagro Second. What's the pshat? You get a necklace. What is this? Like consolation prizes over here. When you get a necklace, so remember, what's the chap? The chap is supposed to say a necklace is visible. So even if you don't get the sukkah, and even if you don't get the tziltzal, if you live the life of piety, so I'm not a tzaddik, I'm not a tzaddikal, I'm just, a really good guy. So I get the necklace. But the necklace is still a visible token of the love of the Ribono Shel Olam. So in other words, it's clear that I'm still beloved. So again, if you're a step down from that you're not in the necklace category, you get an amulet, which is smaller than a necklace. So we'll say, fine. So after all of this, right? So now we've got the meat of the Lev Yasan, the flesh, right? The actual the fish meat that goes for the Suda of a tzaddikim. Whatever is left over sold in the marketplaces of Yerushalayim. The skin. First, they make sukkahs for the tzaddikim. Then, ultimately, again, it's silver for the tzaddikals. Then, a step below that, necklaces. Step below that, amulets. What happens if there's leftover skin after all of this? So, Vashar, this is beautiful. Vashar, parsa kadosh baruch hu achomos Yerushalayim, vezivo mafik misofa olam biad sofo. So, we'll say the rest of the skin is spread over the walls of Yerushalayim. Right? Now, why? What's the pshat? So apparently the skin has a shine to it. And essentially, I guess when the sun hits it, it's very reflective. So this way, the walls of Yerushalayim shine as far as the eye can see. They will say, how beautiful. How incredibly beautiful. I will say, if you think about this, sometimes, right, we think about, let's say, the circumstances we're living through now, the current war, our hostages. If you think about what's the toll that it takes on Klal Yisrael, what's the toll? The toll is that sometimes it's not that our people are diminished, because Klal Yisrael is never diminished. Klal Yisrael is always beautiful. Klal Yisrael is always strong. Sometimes what happens is it takes away a little bit of our shine. That's what it does. I don't feel shiny. I don't feel shiny. I feel proud, and I feel holy, and I feel confident, and I feel optimistic, and I feel hopeful. But like that shine is not there. You know what the Gemara says? You know what happens when Moshiach comes? The shine comes back. The shine of Klal Yisrael is restored. And when the Ribono Shel Olam drapes the skin of the Lev Yasan over the walls of Yerushalayim, that shine is going to be blinding. That shine is going to be beautiful. And that shine is going to radiate all over the world. And for once and for all, the shine of Klal Yisrael will be restored, and Emirat Hashem will never again be diminished. V'samti kidvar shimsho sayich amr b'shalom arachmani pligi b'trei malachi b'rakia. This is incredible. So literally again, the pasuk says, I will make literally like the shine of your walls. Kidkar shimsho sayich. So Mara says, what does this mean? So the two malachim in Shemaim had machlokes. Gabriel and Michael. Gabriel had Shemarai. Others say it was machlokes malachim. It was machlokes Maraim. So Ma'arava. Man inon Yehudah v'Chizkiya b'nei Rabbi Chad amar shoham. V'cham amar yishpa. So one said it was the shoham stone, and one says that it was the yishpa stone. So we'll say, so what is this referring to? So this is referring to ultimately again. Here, if you take a look, Shimso Sayich, Rashi says, Chomos Sayich, Pligiba, Ba'avanim shal Chomos Yushalayim, Mima Yihiyu Elu Avanim Shasidim Liyos. When Mashiach comes and the walls of Yerushalayim are rebuilt to what they once were, the walls are going to be built of stone, precious stones. Which stones are going to be used? So apparently, this is a machlokes between the malachim or machlokes between the Amoraim. So one says the shoham stone, one says the yishpa stone. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, my children, don't argue. Kedain ukedain. Or just make it out of both. Or just make it out. Now, both saying, I have to share with you something absolutely amazing. The shoham and the yishpa, if those sound familiar, it is because, no, they don't sound familiar at all. Right? But if they do sound familiar, it is because they are stones in the choshen. They are stones in the breastplate. The Shem Shmuel, the second chapter Rebbe brings down, he says something amazing. He says, those are the stones of Yosef and Binyamin. Just makes that statement. I was thinking about this last night a little bit, that the walls of Yerushalayim, Iraq, are going to be rebuilt with the stones of Yosef and Binyamin. Because what's the pshat of saying? If we want to make it to Geula, if we want to make it to Moshiach, we want to see those beautiful and holy walls of Yerushalayim Yirah Kodesh rebuilt to their former splendor, we must internalize the stones of Yosef and Binyamin. What were the midos of Yosef and Binyamin? Yosef, right? Yosef represents the ability to weather adversity, right? Yosef is Menashe and Ephraim, right? Kinashan Elokim es kol ami v'es kol beisavi, right? Ki Efrani Elokim be'eretz ani. Yosef represents the ability to say, I'm not going to get pulled down by my adversity. Life is difficult. Life is filled with trials and tribulations. Life is filled with setbacks. I refuse to be derailed by them. Not only that, but I'm going to find a way to prosper even in the midst of all my adversity. That's Yosef. And Binyamin takes that even a step further. Right? Binyamin, when Yosef and Binyamin first meet, even before Yosef revealed his identity, Binyamin tells Yosef about all of his children. And if you remember again, Binyamin has multiple children, and all of his children are named for Yosef. Either about Yosef's beauty, Yosef's struggles, and Yosef hears all of this even before he reveals his identity to his little brother. Binyamin represents the ability to take all of the difficulties in life and to build upon them. Whereas Yosef represents the ability to say, I will not get derailed by my adversity. And I'm going to figure out the way to prosper even in the midst of my adversity. Binyamin is the one who actively does it. Binyamin is the one who keeps building child after child, generation after generation, step after step. We're not going to get derailed. You know what the Gemara says? So, the stones, when we rebuild Yerushalayim, is it the stones of Yosef or the stones of Binyamin? And the Rebbe Shalom says, my children, don't argue. It's both. If we want to get to the Geula, Getting to the Geula requires us to take with us the Shoham and the Yishba. We have to become like Yosef and Binyamin. Don't get derailed by the adversity of life. Find a way to be successful even in the land of your affliction. Keep building step after step, accomplishment after accomplishment. No matter how difficult things become, we will never get derailed. That's the Shalom and the Yishba Baruch who says, I promise you, if you keep building your lives with Shalom and Yishba, then I will say one day we'll be Zochem Eretz Hashem. You see the beautiful walls of Yerushalayim rebuilt with the Shalom and the Yishba, so we just have to keep doing it. We just can't get demoralized. We just can't get debilitated. We can't get sidelined. We cannot get derailed. And as long as we keep building our lives with the Shoham and the Yishba, then one day we will be Zocha to see the walls of Yerushalayim rebuilt with those same stones as well. Incredible. V'sharayich la'avne achtach. So the Gemara says, your gates will be built with hewn stones. So remember, these are all references to the Messianic era, and ultimately the rebuilding of Yerushalayim, the rebuilding of the walls of Yerushalayim. So your walls will be rebuilt with hewn stone. Ki had Yosef Rabbi Yochanan v'kadarish. So this is. Get ready for this. I was saying, it's just when we do these Gemaras, you just have to close your eyes a little bit. And it's Sunday, so it's a little bit later. I feel okay telling you to close your eyes. If it was during the week, I would never tell you to close your eyes at 5:45 in the morning. Is that right? I was saying, but you just have to let these Gemaras seep in. I would say, one day, we're going to see this. These are Moshiach Gemaras. This is Chazal, Rabbi Yochanan telling us, you got to believe that this is Chakilo Bechol Yom Sheyavo. And when it happens, in Eretz Hashem, sooner than we can imagine, you're going to say, oh my gosh, I just learned this. Bava Basra, Ayin Heyam and Aleph. Bava Basra said, I just learned this Gemara. And when they're putting the Shom and the Yishba stones in the walls of Yerushalayim, you're going to be like, oh, I know those. So these Gemaras, you just have to let it flow through your neshama, because in Eretz Hashem, if you let it flow through your neshama, you can feel a little bit of Moshiach. Even sitting here on 7504 7 Mile Lane in Baltimore, Maryland, you could even feel a little bit of Moshiach through these Gemaras. Rabbi Yochanan says as follows: Asad Kadosh Baruch Hu lahavya abanim tavos u'margolio sheyesh shem shloshim ashloshim. The Moshe is going to bring beautiful gems, precious jewels that are 30 amas high by 30 amas, right? 30 amas by 30 amas. The chokek bahen esser al esrim, and he's going to carve out in them an opening of 20 by 10 amas. Uma'amidim b'sha'ari Yerushalayim, and he's going to make these the entranceways of Yerushalayim. So, can you imagine this? And walls of precious stones, entryways of precious stones. So this Rabbi Yochanan is saying this. Ligleg alav also TALMUD. So there was a TALMUD in the Shir who made fun of this. He said, that's ridiculous. Hashta kibi asad tzlila mashkachina kule hamashkachina. He said, Rabbi, you can't find a stone, a precious stone that's even literally, again, the size of the egg of a dove, right? Dove's egg, which is, I guess, is small. Right? So you can't even find the precious jewel that, you're talking about precious jewels this big, literally 30 amas by 30 amas, entranceways, 20 amas by 10 amas. What are you talking about? So I said, listen to this incredible Gemara. One day, this Talmud, this student was on a boat trip. He saw the angels. Now, obviously, this student was very righteous, right? Why? How do we know that he's very righteous? How do we know? He sees malachim, right? He sees malachim. So again, this is not a pashut yid, right? He sees malachim. And he sees them working on stone, shem lamid al lamid, that are 30 amas by 30 amas. And he sees that there are openings in these 30 by 30 precious jewels that are 20 by 10. Amr lahem, hani laman. So he says to the malachim, what are you making this for? Amr lo, sha'asida kadosh baruch hu lahamida meshari Yerushalayim. The malachim said, because one day these are the entranceways of Yerushalayim. I'll say, I just want to tell you something amazing. What do you see from this Gemara? The entranceways to Yerushalayim for the Messianic era, they're already built. They're built. The Malachim built them. Which means that somewhere in this world, they're just waiting to be installed. That's it. It's not. How incredible is that? How absolutely incredible is that? We're waiting for the Jerusalem stone. People ask, is the new building going to be yellow? The answer is no, right? The new building is not yellow, right? Whatever you see that's yellow is the Eretz Hashem Jerusalem stone, right? And our Jerusalem stone is actually in the port of Baltimore. And I'm going to tell you, it drives me crazy. Every single day it's here. It's here. But I just can't get it here. I just can't get it here. So that sometimes, but on the other hand, it gives tremendous simcha to know that there's a little piece of Eretz Yisroel, or a big piece of Eretz Yisroel, that's sitting in a port, that's going to be Eretz Hashem on our Mikdash Ma'at. It's here. It's coming. The knowledge sometimes in life that something you want very badly is already in this world, even if it's not, in your hands, is a chatzi nechama. So I will say the knowledge that the future entranceways of Yerushalayim Yer HaKodesh are built. They're here. The Malachim built them already. They're built. They're just waiting to be installed. Is something absolutely overwhelmingly amazing, as something that has to give us a little bit of nechama. A little bit, which means there's a piece of Moshiach that's already here. The entranceways are built. We just have to push a little bit harder to get them installed. So the student sees all of this. So let's say what happens. So he gets off the boat, he runs into the basement. So we'll say the student comes along and says, Rabbi, you were right, right? Rabbi, preach on, right? You did a great job. Drosh, continue to give your droshes. Kasher Marta, Kain Ra'isi. It's exactly as you said, Rabbi. You said walls of 30 by 30 with entranceways of 20 by 10. I saw it exactly as you saw it. Amar lo, the Rabbi says to his student, Reika, you fool. And el mali lo ra'isa lo ha'amanta? He'll say, wow. Now tell me, had you not seen it, you wouldn't have believed it? Melagleg al divrei chachamim ata. You are someone who disparages the words of the sages. Nason einov bena'as segal shalat samos. Literally, Rabbi Yochanan set his eyes on him and he became a pile of bones. All right, so it's not like the ending we were expecting, right, in the story, right? But, I will say, but what a powerful lesson. And Rabbi Yochanan says, so you only believe what you can see? You only believe what you can see? Let's say, do you know what the core power of Klal Yisrael is? The greatest power of Klal Yisrael? That we believe in things that we cannot see. And we believe in things that we cannot prove. I can't prove it, but I know it. I can't prove it but I know it. I can't prove that there's a Ribono Shalom. You can't. All of these books, all these different things, it's nice. At the end of the day, you cannot conclusively prove the existence of God. But I know it. I can't necessarily absolutely prove that Torah is something Moshe. I don't have to prove it because I know it. The godless, the greatness of Klal Yisrael is the ability to believe in things and to accept them as truth, even if I can't absolutely prove it in an intellectual fashion. So I'll say, this is incredible. So Rabbi Yochanan says, you fool. The beauty of it is believing in it, even if you can't prove it. I'm happy you saw it. And I will say, but the greatest thing in life is to believe in it, even if you can't actually see it. Incredible. The Gemara says, so the pasuk says, I will literally bring you to Eretz Yisroel komamius, standing upright. Rameir says this means 200 amas. Future basement into Israel, future entrance is going to be 200 amas. Shal Adam Arishon, Rabbi Yehudah Omer, Mea Amma Keneged Heichol. It's 100 amas. Uksalav Shenemar, Asher ben Yonah Kinetim, Megudalim, Ben Ureim, Ben Osenik, Zavios, Mechutavos, Tav Neseichol. So the problem is this doesn't match up with the measurements of Rabbi Yochanan. Keep coming, Rabbi Yochanan, Lekavi de Bezeg. Rabbi Yochanan was talking about not the actual entranceways, but rather again the upper windows. Okay, different measurements. Amar Rabba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Asek Baruch Hu lasos sheva chupos l'chol tzadik. So beautiful. So Rabbi Yochanan says Rabbi Yochanan is going to make 7 chuppahs. Right? I just want to point out, like chuppah, sukkah, ultimately again is often used interchangeably, but they said over here Baruch Hu is going to make 7 chuppahs for every single tzaddik. They both say, now what does that mean? 7 chuppahs for every single tzaddik. So if you think about this just a moment, right? What's a chuppah? A chuppah is a place where a relationship is created. Right? That's the beauty of a chuppah. So what does it mean? Perhaps Baruch Hu is going to make 7 chuppahs for every single tzaddik. You know, say, what's going to be the reward for the tzaddik in the Messianic era? What is the reward? What does Baruch Hu give the tzaddik in the Messianic era? What does he give him? He gives him enhanced relationship. Tzaddik. You worked so hard in a world where there was so much ambiguity. You worked so hard in a world where often HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself was nister, was hidden. What is the reward of the tzaddik in the Messianic era? 7 chupos. An intensity of relationship. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the tzaddik. Shneimar ubar Hashem al kol machon har tzion va'al mikar'eha anan yomam va'asha nuga eshlav alayla ki al kol kavod chupa. Mulamed shekol echad ve'echad osa HaKadosh Baruch Hu chupa lefi kavodo. And the Bava say in the future, every person gets a chuppah in accordance with his standing. So we'll say, how beautiful is this? In other words, Messianic era, it could be everybody gets a chuppah, right? That chuppah represents your relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So again, your chuppah reflects the nature of your relationship with Hashem. Which I both say, on one hand is good, on one hand is bad. Right? Why is it good? Because it's beautiful. On the other hand, why is it bad? Because also now everyone could see your relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I will say, you know what it's reminiscent of? Klal Yisrael complained about the man. They complained about the man. So you ever wonder, why did Klal Yisrael complain about the man? At the end of the day, right, man is great. It could be anything you want, tastes like anything you want. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives to you every single day. So the Rebbe brings down, he says that there was one problem with the man, which was, the Gemara tells us that when the man fell for the tzaddikim, it fell at their doorstep. If you were a little bit more challenged, it fell, at the end of the driveway, right next to your paper, right? Right? And then if you were a little bit more challenged, maybe it was like a block away, and it had like a big sticker with your name on it, right? And then if you really were in trouble, it was the next town over. In other words, man, right? So can you imagine, by the way, I know, I would have tremendous man anxiety, right? Meaning what? You wake up in the morning like, oh God, please let it be by the front door. Please let it be by the front door, right? Or if it's not by the front door, please let no one else be outside when I go out to get my man, right? Can you imagine, right? You walk out of your door, Chaim Yankel next door, his man is right on his doormat. Your man is down the walk, right? You're walking outside. That's like the walk of shame, right? So now you're getting your man for the walk of shame, right? And what happens? Chaim Yankel's like, told you, Silber. I told you. You should have told me that Lashon Hara. It was juicy, but it wasn't worth it, right? So now, the issue with man is that it's immediate spiritual feedback. So the Rebbe says, Klal Yisrael didn't like that. And it's understandable. It's hard to live like that. So in the future, Messianic era also going to get that feedback. Everyone's going to have a chuppah, which represents the nature of their relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shabbos say, here's the shayla. If Moshiach were to come today in Halabai, he will. What will your chuppah look like? What will your chuppah look like? Is the chuppah, some people are going to have a beautiful chuppah with flowers and candles, beautiful. And other people are going to have the chuppah. You know that chuppah with like 4 guys holding the poles, using the old talis from the shul that stains because it's been here for like 50 years. Which is your chuppah going to be? Is the chuppah going to be the stained talis, or is the chuppah going to be the beautiful flowers and the candles? And I will say, that's the question. And that chuppah is going to be reflective of my relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Halavai we should all be zochem Eretz Hashem to get our act together, to make sure that we have the most beautiful chuppah possible. Gemara goes weiter. Melamed shekol echad ve'echad osel HaKadosh Baruch Hu chuppah lefi kvodo. As the Gemara says, Ashan b'chuppah lama. So we had, interestingly enough, the pasuk says that there's smoke in the chuppah. Why is there smoke? It wasn't incredible. Amar Rabbi Chanina shekom ishe einov tzaros betalmidei chachamim ba'olam hazeh mismalos einov ashan le'olam haba. Because it tells you that at the end of the day, whoever looks disparagingly upon talmidei chachamim in this world, ultimately, again, his eyes will be filled with smoke in the world to come. In the world to come. I will say, it's a very important yesod. And I will say, and I think that this is an incredibly important Gemara, especially to learn in this day and age. One of the biggest machloksim happening now in Eretz Yisroel is what to do with the exemption, the army exemption for the Haredi community. And I will say, it is a problem. We spoke about this on Shavuos, absolutely is a problem, but it's very important to understand that within the Haredi community, there are absolutely individuals who are living lives of Torah and Kedusha and are wholly devoting themselves to Torah and Kedusha. Is it everyone? No. Can you have an exemption that blanketly exempts everyone? No, it's not sustainable. But I want to tell you the danger of what's happening. But sometimes what ends up happening is people end up looking disparagingly upon the Torah community and upon Lomdei Torah. And you can't do that. It is a complicated issue that needs a significant pivot and a paradigm shift. But chas v'shalom, that we should look at a segment of Klal Yisrael disparagingly, and especially when many within that segment are in people who are Kodesh Kadoshim learning Torah. Again, what to do with the army and how to create a sustainable approach for society, this is incredibly difficult. And there needs to be a pivot. And there needs to be, because what's happening now is clearly not sustainable for the future and continuity of the state of Israel. But we just have to be careful. We always have to be careful how we look at our fellow Jews, and we especially have to be careful at those who, Baruch Hashem, are spending their lives learning Torah. Again, just a sensitivity that we always have to bring even to the most complicated of situations. So the Gemara goes weiter. The Gemara says, listen to this. So the Gemara says, Amar Bichanina, Malamed, Shechol Echad Ve'echad is incredible. The Gemara says, V'lam Shechol Echad Ve'echad, I'm sorry, Ve'ish B'chuppah Lamali, why is there fire? Right? Why is there fire in the chuppah? Right? Why is there fire in the chuppah? Amar Bichanina Malamed, Shechol Echad Ve'echad Nichve Michupas Shechavero. So I'll say this is pretty profound. Each one is burned by the chuppah of his friend. Now, what does that mean that you're burned by the chuppah of your friend? So the Gemara says, Oy la la'osa busha, oy la la'osa klima. So I'll say, listen to this. This is incredible. You know, when the future Moshiach comes, and what's going to happen? Everyone's going to have their chuppah. And we'll say, what's going to happen? You're going to see a friend, and your friend's going to have a much nicer chuppah than you. And how are you going to feel? How are you going to feel? The Gemara says, embarrassed and jealous. And I will say there are certain forms of kina, certain forms of jealousy, which are permitted. Amongst them, spiritual jealousy. If you see someone else, ultimately again, who is right holier than you, more spiritually accomplished than you, you are permitted, maybe even encouraged, to be jealous of that. So in the Messianic era, what's going to happen? I'm going to see my friend, and he's going to have a more beautiful chuppah. Oh, so embarrassing. So embarrassing. And I will say, and why is it embarrassing? Why is it embarrassing? Why? Because if he could do it, then what? I could do it. I could do it as well. So the Gemara goes weiter. This is incredible. So it's incredible. This is the pasuk by Moshe Rabbeinu, right? So remember again, Kadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe, you're not going to lead Klal Yisrael. Then Yoshua is going to. But Moshe, you have to give of your hold, of your glory to Yoshua. V'lo kol hodcha, but not all of your glory. In other words, Moshe, give some of your glory, not all of your glory. Zikinim sheba'os adar amru. The elders of that generation said, Pnei Moshe ke pnei chama. The sun, right? The face of Moshe Rabbeinu was as luminescent as the sun. Pnei Yoshua ke pnei levana. The face of Yoshua was as luminescent as the moon. So Moshe Rabbeinu was the sun, was great, and Yoshua was the moon. Ay la la'osa busha, ay la la'osa klima. Woe to us for this busha, for this humiliation, and for this degradation. I will say now, the Rashbam understands it means like this, that the elders were lamenting that what a step down in leadership we are experiencing. And I will say, once you have Moshe, you've got the gold standard, right? You've got the sun. To go from Moshe to Yoshua, as great as Yoshua was, the elders lamented it. And they said, Ayla la'osa busha, ayla la'osa klima. Rashbam says over here, Shebizman muat nismait hakavad kol kach. Shar Yoshua haya navi umelech, ki Moshe v'lo yachal hagiyah l'chvodo. Again, so according to the Rashbam, they were lamenting the decline in the quality of leadership. Okay? Again, Yoshua was great. But Yoshua, we knew Moshe, and you are no Moshe, right? Right, as the famous quote goes, right? In other words, I will say, so ultimately, again, they were saying at the end of the day, I will say, I'll tell you like this. I was very bothered by this. As the TALMUD of Rabbi Yitzchak Berditchev, I was very bothered by this. How could it be? First of all, what a shtach to Yoshua. It's the job of the tzidkeuni. I will say, God, we have a concept of Yiftach B'doro ki Shmuel B'doro, right? V'ashovet v'anovi asher yeh bo yamim ha'hem. The whole... You could always go back, people like to say, we don't have leaders like we used to. Okay, we also don't have constituents like we used to. In other words, I'll say that Lamaisa, again, you're right. Leadership is not what it used to be. But, you have to deal with what you have. So can you imagine this scene? Can you imagine this scene that the Yoshua is appointed, and this came like, sure don't build them like they used to. We remember the good old days with Moshe. By the way, Moshe, who they made his life miserable, just as an aside, right? We remember Moshe, and now we have Yoshua. So maybe it means like something like this. When the Gemara says, Zikein Shava'os Adar Amru, The tzidkeuni of the generation said, Pnei Moshe ki pnei chama, pnei Yoshua pnei chama. Oy la la osa busha, oy la la osa klima means the following. The elders were saying, look at Moshe, who is like the sun, and look at Yoshua, who is like the moon. Look at what people can accomplish. Human beings. Moshe, as great as Moshe was, as great as Moshe Rabbeinu was, he was a human being. That's our Hershel of our Hersh brings down. Then in the beginning of Chumash Shmos, in the beginning of Chumash Shmos, what does the Torah do first? The Torah does, after it introduces us to Moshe, tells us gives us a genealogy. Why? Because if Hersh says Moshe Rabbeinu was about to begin an ascent to unparalleled greatness, lest you think that he's not immortal, lest you think that he's the son of God, like other religions made the mistake. Right? Hershel of our Hersh says, Torah gives us a genealogy. He's immortal. He is a mortal. He's a person. And that's the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu. That a regular person can make something fantastic of himself. Moshe can become like the sun. And by the way, Yoshua could become like the moon. The Chazal, these tzidkeuni, were extolling the greatness of Moshe and Hashem. And then what do they say? Oy la la osa busha, oy la la osa klima. What's the embarrassment? The embarrassment is, but what have I made of myself? When I look at Moshe, I see how great man could become. When I look at Yoshua, I see how great man could become. I see the potential that we could actualize within ourselves. And then I look at what I have and what I haven't done. And I'm embarrassed. The embarrassment is not about the shift in leadership. The embarrassment is the tzidkeuni looking at two paradigms of personalistic self-actualization and greatness. And realizing the same way that these two men became the best version of themselves, each of us has the ability to do so as well. But the tragic story of the human condition is that more often than not, we don't. Ay lola osa busha, ay lola osa klima is not them crying out about how humiliating it is to go from a Moshe to Yoshua. They should thank their stars, thank Hakadosh Baruch Hu that they have a Yoshua. It's recognizing that when you see the greatness of man, and you see regular people who become something extraordinary, and you realize I'm the same as them, and I could do it also if I put my mind to it, but I don't, that's embarrassing. And that's even a shtickle humiliating. But of course, as Yidden, we never wallow in embarrassment and humiliation. Instead, what we do is we pick ourselves up and we say, you're right. If Moshe could do it, I can do it. And if Yoshua could do it, I can do it as well. Incredible. Let's go weiter. I'm Rabbi Chama. I'm Rabbi Chanina Rachanina. Asar Chubos. Moshe made 10 chuppahs for Adam in Gan Eden. 10 chuppahs. Now, I will say again, if you go with this idea that a chuppah represents a unit of relationship, so beautifully again, it means that Adam HaRishon had the opportunity for unparalleled relationship. Shnei Amar, Be'eden Gan Elokim Hayisi Kol Even Yikara. Brazutcha Amar Achat Esrei. So both say Shnei Amar Kol Even Yikara. Rabbi Yochanan, V'Garosha B'Kulan Zav. So he made him 10 chuppahs, representing different levels of relationship with Baruch Hu, and so to speak, the most inexpensive, like the lowliest of the chuppahs was made of gold. Ma'ay melechas tulfecha v'nekavecha, Amar Rabbi Yehudah, Amar Rav, Amar Lach Baruch Hu, L'chiram melech tzor. So we'll say Chiram was the king of Tzor. Chiram rebelled against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Hashem said to Chiram, Bechan nistakalti barasi nekavim ba'adam. We'll say it's incredible. The Rebbe Shalom says, do you want to know why I created man with so many orifices? Right? They will say, it's interesting. The Rebbe Shalom created us with so many orifices. And what happens with these orifices? Right? Bless you. Orifices are like, I don't know, like stuff oozes out, stuff comes out. It seems like little children, right? They're always leaking from somewhere, right? In other words, right? And it's like this incredible, like, cycle of life. And as we get old, right? We're always leaking from somewhere, right? In other words, Rebbe Shalom created us with all of these orifices. So why is that? So it's incredible. Do you know how HaKadosh created us with all of these orifices? Because nothing makes you humble like your orifices. Orifices or orifices? Orifices? Good. Dr. Gavan told me orifices. Okay, so we're going orifices. Good. So the Maisa, isn't that incredible? That the Rebbe Shalom almost created a built-in humility. I have all these openings in my body, and a lot of times I can't control what is coming out, what's leaking out, what's this, what's that. That keeps me humble. So he did this for Chiram. He knew that Chiram was going to rebel. And he said, really? You're going to rebel? You, full of orifices? You're going to rebel? And This is what it means. Becha nistakalti. Others say ultimately again, he did it really for Adam. He saw that Adam ultimately again was going to rebel. The Rashbam says, "Kishavrati olami sha'ata osid limros v'lasos atzmcha loka barasi ba'adam nikavim shemotziin rea tov chalo." So again, Chashbar Baruch Hu saw that man was going to rebel, and therefore created all these orifices. We're perfectly on schedule. Do not worry about anything. Bekanasti misa al adam harishon. I can't go any faster. It's not possible. It's not humanly possible. I could blow through it, but then you should fire me if I blow through this Gemara like this. Really, it's grounds for immediately dismissal without cause. So the Gemara says, "Kanasti nisal adam arishon." Right? So I saw all of these orifices, right, and ultimately, what else? I went ahead and I decreed death upon Adam Arishon. I will say it's actually incredible. The Gemara says that the Rebbe Shalom pre-programmed into the world a recognition that man was going to rebel. So how do you prevent rebellion? Now the answer is you can't. You can. But how do you leverage the possibility or diminish the possibility of rebellion? Build in mechanisms that keep man humble. So the Gemara suggests that it's incredible that there are two things that keep man humble, right? Number one, orifices, right? Stuff is coming out, stuff's right, so that keeps man humble. And number two, death. The idea that at the end of the day we leave this world and I don't control when I come in and I don't control when I leave. So we'll say that is overwhelmingly humble. The difference is, that's why we'll say the Gemara says, right? Remember the Gemara says brachas? The Gemara says if you're struggling with your Yetzer Hara, and you can't control it. So the Gemara gives a whole bunch of different things that you should do to try to control your Yetzer Hara. If everything else fails, what does the Gemara say? Yaskir lo yom hamisa. Remind yourself you're going to die. I will say that is the most humbling reality of all. And to compound that, if I knew that I was going to live 120 years and then die, okay, at least I know. What's humbling even more is I don't know when I'm going to die. It's incredible. The Gemara says, "My Baal Mikra." I'm Rabbi Yochanan. So this is beautiful. Look, Yerushalayim Shal Olam Hazeh, Yerushalayim Shal Olam Hazeh. I think on base 75b, 3 lines down. Yerushalayim of Olam Hazeh is not like Yerushalayim of Olam Haba. And we'll say, now what does this mean? So this is incredible. We don't really have time to get into this, but I will. So we'll say, so now listen to this. So the idea over here is there's Yerushalayim. By the way, also I just don't get nervous. The next couple of days are short Gemara. So we are fine. So the Gemara says as follows: there is Yerushalayim Shal Mata and Yerushalayim Shal Mala. There's Yerushalayim of this world and there's Yerushalayim of the celestial sphere. Whatever this means, we'll get into this. So the Gemara says Yerushalayim Shal Olam Hazeh is not the Yerushalayim Shal Olam Haba. Now I will say but on the other hand, what it also sounds like the Gemara is driving at over here is Olam Haba in this context seems to really mean the Messianic era. Right? Yerushalayim as we know it now is not the same as Yerushalayim of the Messianic era. How so? Gemara says Yerushalayim Shal Olam Haba. Gemara says good. Look, Yerushalayim Shal Olam Hazeh, Yerushalayim Shal Olam Haba. Yerushalayim Shal Olam Hazeh, Yerushalayim of this world, meaning current Yerushalayim. Kol harotza lalos ola. Whoever wants to go in could go in. Let's say incredible. If you want to go, we always think about this. What is incredible about the times that we live in? If you want to go today to Yerushalayim, you can. Although it was incredible. It's not so pashut now. Actually, it's hard to get flights, which is a little bit crazy, right? But lamaisa again. But the good news is that the flights are sold out. That's the most incredible thing in the world. That it is hard to get a ticket to Yerushalayim Kodesh, which is to Eretz Yisroel, which is a Baruch Hashem beautiful. But technically, today, whoever wants to go to Yerushalayim, go to Yerushalayim. Sha'olam haba ein olin ela hamizumanin law. Wow, I will say, is that's a little bit scary, right? That's a little bit scary. That in Yerushalayim of Olam Haba. Now again, is this referring to Yerushalayim Shalmala, like Yerushalayim of the celestial sphere, or is this referring to Yerushalayim ultimately again of the Messianic era? But apparently, you have to be invited. You have to be invited to Yerushalayim of the Messianic era. Mizumanin ba. You have to be overwhelming. But Amar Rabbi Yochanan, we're going to see what that means. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Asidin tzadikim shenikram Hashem Shalach Kadosh Baruch Hu. The tzadikim ultimately again will be known by the name of Kadosh Baruch Hu. So we'll say this is incredible. Tzadikim will be known. Part of their identity is that they are known by or I should say the name of Kadosh Baruch Hu is attached to them. Shene Emar Kol Hanikra B'Shmi L'Chvodi Barasiv Yitzartiv Af Asisiv There are three people who HaKadosh Baruch Hu attaches his identity to their identity. And who are they? Ve'eluhein, Tzadikim, Moshiach, V'Yerushalayim. Wow. So we'll say Tzadikim, Moshiach, V'Yerushalayim, all three of these entities, or people and entities, the Rebbe Shalom attaches his name to their name. Tzadikim, Hadama, so Tzadikim we just said before. Moshiach Tichsev, V'zeh Shema Sheyikra Hashem tzidkeuni Yerushalayim Tichsev, Saviv Shmona Asar Ela, V'Shema Er Miyom Hashem, Shama Al Tikri, Shama Ela Shma. Shabbat say, isn't this incredible? The Ribono Shel Olam B'Chvod Bas attaches his name to three things. Three things Hashem associates with. Number one, Tzadikim. Number two, Mashiach. And number three, Yerushalayim. These, and I will say, here's the beautiful part. I'm not going to be Mashiach, and I can't be Yerushalayim. But what can I be? What can I be? I can be a tzaddik. If I put my mind to it and I work hard enough, I can be a tzaddik, which means that I could raise myself to the level where the Ribono Shel Olam Kibiyachol attaches his name to me, which is absolutely incredible. I'm Rabbi Lazar. Asid in Tzadikim Shalom Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Asid in Shalom Lefnei HaKadosh Kederek Shalom Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Both is incredible. In the future, in the Messianic era, the same way that the Malachim, the angels, say Kadosh before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they will say Kadosh before the Tzadikim as well. Shnei Emar V'Haya HaNishar B'Tzion V'anoser Yerushalayim Kadosh Yomer Lo. V'Omer Rabba Amar Rabbi Yochanan Asid HaKadosh Baruch Hu Lag B'Yes Yerushalayim Gimel Parsos L'Malo. The Rebbe Shalom is going to lift, in the Messianic era, the Rebbe Shalom is going to lift up Yerushalayim 3 parsos. So Yerushalayim is going to be lifted, it's going to be elevated 3 parsos in the air. Shnei Emar V'Ramo V'Yosha Tachtel. My Tachtel, Ki Tachtel, and the space underneath Yerushalayim, it's going to be elevated Yerushalayim, and then the space underneath Yerushalayim will be the size of Yerushalayim itself. Umimai, the high Tachtel, Tlasa Parsi Avya. How do you know that the area underneath Yerushalayim is 3 parsos? Amar Rabba Amar Liyahu Saba Ledidi Chazli Yerushalayim Chamaisa Utlasa Parsi Havya. So there was an older man who said to me, I saw Yerushalayim of old, and it was 3 parsos. V'Shema Tomar Yesh Sar Lalos. Well, I will say, so now, it's incredible. So now, somehow Messianic Yerushalayim is elevated, which means what? You're going to have to go up. So I will say, by the way, it's also a new insight into Aliyah L'Regel. What is Aliyah? Literally, Yerushalayim of the Messianic era is going to be elevated. So now, again, literally to get there, you're going to have to go up. Maybe you'll say, there's enough hills in Yerushalayim already. Now, another uphill, right? Now I have to go up again. Talmud Lomar, mi ela ka'af ta'ofena, ukiyonim ela ruosehem. So I'll say, so beautiful. Therefore, the pasuk compares it to the clouds that glide, or to the doves that fly. This is so beautiful. The same way that the cloud ascends effortlessly, the dove ascends effortlessly, so too the ascension to Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, in the Messianic era, will be without effort as well. Amar Papa, Shmamina, Ha'eva Tlasa Parsinili. You see from here again that a cloud has the ability to travel 3 parsos. Incredible. Amar Rabbi Chanina, Papa, Bikesh Chash Baruch Hu L'Seis Yerushalayim Amida. Chash Baruch Hu wanted to go ahead and measure Yerushalayim. Just very quickly, about another minute. Hashem wanted to measure Yerushalayim. He wanted to find out the measurements of Yerushalayim. Shnei Emar, Va'omer Ana Ata Holich, V'yomer Alei Lama Yerushalayim Liros Kama Rachba, V'Kama Archa. 3rd line down. Amar Malach V'Yasharis. So the Malachim said, Ribono Shel Olam, Harbe Krachim Barasa Ba'olamecha. You went ahead and you created many cities. Shalomos Olam, V'lo Nasati Midas Arkan Midas Rachban. You've given, right? You have so many cities and to given to the world, and you've never measured them. Yerushalayim Sheshmecha B'Socha Mikdashecha B'Socha B'Zadikim B'Socha Atanosim B'Mida. Yerushalayim you have to measure. What's the problem of measuring something? What's the problem of measuring something? When you measure something, you give it definition. Definition represents limitation. So the Malachim say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why do you need to measure Yerushalayim? If you measure it, you give it limitations. Miyad, Vayomer Elav, Roz Dabra Lanar Alaz Lemor, Parazos Teisha Yerushalayim Beirov Adam Ubeheva Bisocha. So ultimately, HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls off the order, told measure Yerushalayim. Both say, by the way, how beautiful, I have to end. But it's incredible. Remembering it, one of the miracles that the Mishnah of us says, happening in Yerushalayim was what? Below Amar Adam Sarli Hamakom Sha'alin B'Yerushalayim. Right? That a person never said that there's not enough room in Yerushalayim. We'll say one of the miracles of Yerushalayim is that somehow something which is technically so small could accommodate so much. That's part of the miracle of Yerushalayim. It is a city without measurements, a city without definition. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was about to measure it. Malachim said, stop. And the Ribbana Shel Olam listened. To ascend, to measureless Yerushalayim. Bimheira b'yameinu. Amen. Shkoyach. What a way to start the week. Wow. All right, Chevron Zoom, have a great day, everyone.